Okay, good morning. So I built a test board, demonstration board here to show how I program the flap operation on the Spektrum DX7s. This would be a simulated view of the underneath of the wing. This is the trailing edge of the wing with the tail back there. And of course these are the flap servos and the outsides are the aileron servos. The flap servos are mounted in the typical asymmetrical configuration, similar to the aileron servos, which means they would, since they're flopped over, they would run in the opposite direction. Flaps need to run together, and so you can't just Y off the flap servos into a single channel because they would run opposite direction. So in this case, what we have to do is each flap servo has to occupy its own individual channel. A little quick demonstration here. You can see that's the ailerons there, and then I use the flap switch 3 position for the flaps. Got them dialed back a little bit. Modest movement. It's all programmable. Anyway, let's see. The right flap servo is in aux 1, and then the left flap servo is in the gear port. And this simple little demonstration board here. This is the ailerons. They go through, they're hooked together through a Y connector here. Y connector, and then they both go, they're combined into a single channel, which would of course be the aileron channel. Of course, all the others are occupied. This is a 6-channel Spektrum receiver, the AR610, right there. So that's the operation of the board. Now we'll get into programming. Okay, here's a close-up view of the DX7X. I don't know how it compares to the DX8, but we're going to go step by step on how I did it. There may be other ways that you can do this. So, okay, you've got your receiver bound to the transmitter, and you've assigned a channel. Well, I'm assuming you've done all of that. So let's look at the settings. First, I'm going to turn off the transmitter. I'm going to hold down on the roller switch here, turn it on. You want to make sure that the wing type is set for 1 aileron and 2 flaps and tail normal. I'm demonstrating this for a Bixler 2 setup. Okay, wing type. And then switch select. You want to go into switch select and make sure all 6 of these switches are set to inhibit, especially the gear one. You know, they're all INH inhibit. And of course, if they're not, you just roll it until you get to it. Press when you're done. Okay? That's step 1. Okay, we're in our model channel right now. We're going to set up the flap settings. So we push down on the roller switch. Need to roll down to flaps. And here it is. I'm not sure if it's the same on the DX8, but here's the DX7s. Since the flap switch is 3 positions, when I hit the switch, you can see the little arrow moving telling you which channel that you're on there. So to get inside of here, so in other words, I've got the servos are neutral in the normal mode, and then when I go to position 2 with 49% and 100%, you notice I have the speed at 1 second. That's adjustable. And then my switch assignment is the flap switch. And now you can rock through and you can change the value. You want it to be a little more in the second position, you push down, get it flashing, and you adjust it accordingly. And continue to go here. Okay, continue, and here's where you can change the speed. For example, I want a little slower flap. There. And of course, over here you have different switches you can assign. And in my case, it's going to be the flap switch. That's the step 1. Get your flaps set up. Next, we go into mixing. And we're going to go into the mix list, push down. I'm going to go into mix 1. This is where you need to get mix your auxiliary 1 into the gear channel. And so you rotate it. You see you've got the source and target. So you just AXI1 to gear. So you push down and you just select the proper one. In this case it's AXI1. And here, gear switch. Okay? Everything else stays here. And make sure the switch is turned on. So that's the mix. That's the mix channel. Now, since we're using the gear channel for the flap, you go into servo setup and select gear. And travel. You can go in here and individually, in my case, the gear is on the left wing servo. And while it's running, you can actually kind of fine-tune in this case, the way it's set up, you can fine-tune the position by moving these values up and down. Probably won't need much adjusting. Okay, so that's just to fine-tune that, in this case, the left wing servo. Another thing you may have to do is you may have to go in and, we're in the gear channel, you may have to reverse the movement of the gear, depending upon how it's mounted. if they're moving the opposite, if your flaps are moving in the opposite direction, then you're going to have to go in there and change the position or state. If it's in normal, it'll go to reverse. If it's in reverse, it'll go to the normal. And that would apply to the aux1 channel too. And here's your right flap and left flap. You can reverse those. Okay, that would deal with the aux1 channel. Both the left and right flap are on normal right now. That's about it. So you'll notice how I've got the flap servo it's right there in the 0 position on the flap switch. That's the neutral position. Notice how I have the servo arm facing toward the flap. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that kind of equals out the movement or travel of the arm. If you put it in the center, then as you pull down the flaps, it would decrease the movement. Little physics there. So I just kind of keep it in the mid-range like that. So that's the position of how I mount my flap servo horns, or arms actually. Here's a close-up of the receiver.